Okay, I think I'll make a start. Have you ever had one of those projects that comes out of, well, you think of a title, and then, what does that mean? So, I blame Leo Lapworth for this, which is pretty good because he's not here. So that all works out for everyone. So we were at a London PM technical meeting, August of last year, and he was giving a talk about PSGI. He does a really good introduction to PSGI talk, which you won't see because he's not here. And then in passing, when he's talking about the history of web programming in Perl, he mentions Matt Wright. And it's kind of popped into my head, and I tweeted that we need something along the lines of Matt's PSGI archive. But as I said, at the time, I didn't really know what that meant. But anyway, I proposed it as a lightning talk to the London Perl workshop. Have you heard of the idea of conference-driven development? If you propose a talk about something, then it really crystallises your thinking. So, anyway, a bit of history. In 1995, and you'll have seen me mention this yesterday, some of you, Matt's script archive hit the internet. For a long time, it was the most popular Perl website on the internet. It was the most well-known Perl code out there on the internet. The most well-known of Matt's programs was a thing called Formail, which for a while, and may even still be true, that it was the most widely installed Perl program on the internet. Yay! Another way of looking at that is it was the most popular spamming tool on the internet. And it's not just the insecurities that were in Matt's code. It was a terrible example of Perl programming. It's just really badly written Perl. If you ask Matt, and I have, he will freely admit that he was just learning to program at the time that this stuff was written. So obviously, popular doesn't necessarily equal good. And okay, there's the problem that people install this code on their servers, and suddenly they've got all these massive insecurities on their web server. But there's another problem, which is that people learn Perl. I put learn in inverted commas there because I don't actually learn anything. They just cut and paste Matt's code into new programs that they want to write. Or perhaps you could say they learn Perl, because whatever it is that they're learning from Matt's code, it's certainly not Perl. Anyway, moving on, 2001. And some of us in London Perl Mongers set up this project called, we started off calling it Not Matt's Scripts. Later on we just changed it to be NMS. It wasn't Matt that got upset, but some of his friends thought we were taking the piss with it. Which I suppose we were. And what we did, we came up with new versions of all of Matt's scripts, hopefully with fewer bugs, with fewer security holes, and higher quality code. Now we set ourselves some coding constraints when we did this. The thing is that Matt's scripts target really cheap, low-end hosting plans, where you can't expect to see anything from CPAN. So Matt's scripts work on Perl 4 out of the box. So rule 1, no CPAN modules. And rule 2 was that we were targeting Perl 5.04.04. That's because that was the first version that included CGI.pm, and we really didn't want to go to the pain of re-implementing that in our code. So that was an interesting challenge, or perhaps I mean it was an interesting challenge. In the Chinese curse meaning of the word, may you live in interesting times. So the results we had, obviously were not completely satisfactory. Even back in 2001 when we were writing these, we would have loved to have used the template toolkit. We would love to have used something from the email namespace. So even back then we knew that what we were doing was not best practice, but it was forced on us by the constraints. So it wasn't best practices even for those times. And our scripts were reasonably successful. I embarked on a campaign of hanging out on forums where people who use Matt's scripts hung out and pointing them at our versions. At one point, Matt even added links to our scripts to his website, although they're quite small, but they are still there. He wouldn't do the honourable thing and take his site down completely. I assume that's because of the large amount of advertising all over it. That's right. Moving forward to 2012, and those coding constraints that we worked under mean that actually NMS looks really embarrassing. Perl web programming has changed an awful lot over those 12 years. People still find Max code and they still use it. Some people learn Perl from Max code. Some people do get pointed at NMS, even though I'm no longer out there banging this particular drum. I still find that people have actually been pointed to our scripts. But anyway, we're still some distance from being, or even further from being, best practices. And then, in between proposing this talk for the London Perl Workshop and the London Perl Workshop actually arriving, so when I was still thinking about this, a couple of interesting blog posts on blogs.perl.org talking in particular about Modulicious. So Ovid posted this thing, basically saying he was at the Italian Perl Workshop and he was talking to a freelancer who says although he likes Modulicious, he hates working for clients that use it because one of Modulicious's selling points is that it doesn't require anything from CPAN. So it encourages people to not use CPAN modules. There was another post which I'm not going to go into. Joel is somebody that works a lot with the Modulicious project. So there was this interesting discussion going on. So as I said, Matt targeted these low-end, cheap hosting plans, which meant that NMS had to target the same things. And CPAN hosting plan, these cheap hosting plans are not CPAN friendly. They will have Perl on if you're lucky, because it came with the operating system, which probably means it's a really old version of Perl anyway. But you just can't get them to install anything from CPAN. So, we've perhaps had these unintended consequences that NMS might fall into the same boat as Modulicious and perhaps discourage CPAN use, which is a bit of a dilemma. You've got this best practices versus easy to install. Just ask the PHP people. So, these cheap hosting plans still exist out there, but the people that use them, do they really still use very much Perl and PHP?
Yeah.
If they're using Perl, they're doing CGI.
Yeah, I know most of them are now switching to because you can get badly written, buggy form mailers in PHP too, and so that's what they're using. So, I mean, the NMS code still exists. If people want a slightly better, early version of these things, we're not doing any work on bringing them up to date. But I started thinking, why not rewrite Matt's scripts again, because I'm nothing if not a glutton for punishment. But this time, let's see how we would do it if we could use all of the best practices. We can have CPAN, we can have PSGI, and that's when it linked back to what Leo had said. We could take our pick from all the Perl web frameworks. We can use any of these modules. How much easier would it get? So we don't expect there'll be many users of this stuff, but I think it would be handy to have simple examples out there, because these are well understood problems. If we could show the solutions to these common problems, it would be some kind of entry-level entrance, if that's not tautological, into web programming in Perl. I mean, some of this stuff is ridiculously easy. If you look at the kind of things that Matt's got out there, text clock, how hard's that? Random text. These things are about 5 lines of code. Some of them were ridiculously overcomplicated by Matt's implementation. For example, guestbook and www board. Both of these are far, far easier if you use a database. If you look at the way that Matt did it, all the data for the guestbook is encoded in the HTML, and it's all regular expressions to find the most recent entry and insert your new one. Let's move on to 2013. And there's this whole let's take CGI.pm out of core discussion going on P5P. At which point NMS starts working on cheap hosting.
And I believe that actually the default for Fedora and then Red Hat thing is that actually Red Hat have taken it out of their distribution. So they've beaten us to it.
Yes. It's a bit galling actually that Matt's scripts carry on working when ours stop. Yeah, that's a little bit annoying. But the other thing to bear in mind actually is when will these cheap hosting plans upgrade to Perl 520? And I calculate in about 15 years. So we've got plenty of time to get people up to speed on PSGI. So these simple examples look like they might be quite a good idea. So let's have a progress report, because it's actually a project that's done stuff. We've got a GitHub. It's there. And we've written 4 simple programs. These 4. Others to follow, maybe by Christmas. So, show us some code, Dave. Okay. Remember I said this stuff is really easy, so it's round text. Can anyone read that? The slides will be on slideshow as soon as I can get to a decent network. But basically, you're picking a random piece of text from a text file. This is a dancer implementation. You can tell because it says dance. Random image is almost exactly the same thing. Text clock is it's just. I mean, this is the most of it. Just display the time. But there's some bits trying to make it as compatible as possible with the way that Matt did it, which is why we have all these horrible globals. So as I said, there is a GitHub. Please feel free to submit code. A full replacement for things we've already got, or things we haven't already got. It's fine to have alternative versions. Maybe we've got a dancer version and you want to give us a Modulicious version. That would be great. If you want to send patches, that's good. Documentation, of course, is always good, and something that I'm always really bad at. Any help that you can give to the project would be much appreciated. GitHub address again, github.com/dabble/Matt's PSGI archive.
5 minutes.
I think I've got 5 minutes for questions if anyone wants to ask something. Mara.
I have directed Matt script users to NMS on forums, and I had several people actually come back and say, the copyright on not Matt scripts is quite old, and Matt's page says 2012.
Yeah, Matt has a script that automatically runs and updates the copyright in his script every year.
Yes,
we don't do that.
Did you not realize maybe how harmful that is? You guys did. And that's kind of serious because enough people said, well, Matt's just looks more, I mean, it looks newer and it looks more...
His website looks nicer than ours too, actually.
Right, and for the other thing, wherever you have dodgy code, it's okay to actually tell people, this is considered dodgy, but it will work, so that people know, I mean, even if they use it, they maybe will at least know, well, this is not good code, instead of just having it, like Matt's just has code, and people, oh, it works, it must be good. You could have your dodgy working code and say, by the way, this is dodgy, and here's an example of, have examples with your code that you want people to take and use.
This all assumes that I can remember how to get into the code repository where the NMS code is. But yes, I will look at that.
But I mean, if the problem is, well, it's also bad code and people are still thinking this is an example of Perl,
Sure.
I go ahead and with a sentence of plain English say, this isn't good code, it will just work.
Good points, thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay.
I'm wondering if Amazon's micro instance will be cheaper than anything else, you know, those cheap hostings that you're talking about.
I don't, to be honest, the people that we're targeting here aren't really looking at the cheap hosting plans because they've gone and done an in-depth look at what's cheapest. They've just bought they bought a domain name from GoDaddy or something like that, and therefore they use the hosting that comes with the domain name.
Well, new repository can your site with PSGI, span models. It can come with a link to AWS pre-built instance. You know, you can build an instance and it will be ready with.
That would be that sounds like a lovely cottage industry if somebody wants to piggyback on the back of my project. Personally, I don't have the time to get involved, but it sounds like a great idea. Larry?
If his web page is using his own insecure scripts, you could fix his web page for him.
That's worth thinking about as well, yes. Thank you. I had a friend who, about 10 years ago, had an idea of using the insecurities in Windows to write some kind of worm that would go out and fix them all. That's a similar sort of idea. If there's no other questions, I think you might possibly be first in the queue for lunch, which will make you all love me more, won't you? Thank you.
Wait at least 4 years.
We have